Hello and welcome to another edition of the DUALpreneur Virtual Mastermind. My name is Tara Jackson, aka Madam Money, and I am your host. I am also the founder of DUALpreneur. Hey, do you have a full-time or part-time business and you have an entrepreneurial venture as well? Are you addicted to the direct deposit like me? Do you understand that multiple streams of income is necessary because we got multiple streams of bills? Well, that makes you an awesome dualpreneur, and we honor you and celebrate you, especially today. Are you interested in getting government contracts? Are you now in a position where you can offer the government a product or service and you are ready to have a government contract? Are you an organization where you feel like you can qualify or you want to know how to qualify for grants? Well, I can tell you this much, that's not my lane. So I had to call the big guns. I had to go into my Rolodex. Y'all know about my virtual Rolodex. I got some fire in here in my virtual Rolodex. I had to call my girl, my biz girl, my sister from another mister who is in business is to help small businesses, veterans get government contracts. And I've known her. That's all I've known her to do. And she's been fabulous. And we've known each other, oh, wow, over 10 years, probably over 10. We've known each other a long time. Yeah, I think when I was 20 pounds lighter. Don't judge me. So, Stacy, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. I so appreciate you sharing this with the dualpreneurs and everyone that's watching, because for this, most people have to get a consultation with you and they got to pay big money. So I really, really appreciate you pouring into the dualpreneurs. Hashtag keep dualpreneurs in business. So as we begin, Stacy, this is really all about you and what you have to share about us, because a lot of people are asking these questions. Tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us how we can position ourselves or what we need to do to get these government contracts and these grants.
Okay. So, hi, everybody. I was in government forever, is what I tell people. I started really when I was 10, but what happened was I was a military spouse and I was hired to be a teacher for a grant and understand the grant world really well, under instructions, what the requirements are, those kind of things. And you have to get a grant as a nonprofit or association or some kind of chamber. Those are kind of how grants work. And then I transitioned out of teaching because, teachers, we don't make a lot of money. And I got hired as a technical editor for a defense firm who won a big contract, and they needed staff. They couldn't hire people fast enough. And I transitioned and worked for a couple of firms that you guys all might know, Northrop Grumman, and Northrop Grumman over 100 years old, and Lockheed Martin. And I can tell you, in that time period, I learned so much about how the government spends money and how can small businesses take advantage of that. And one thing is, I was always about, even as a government employee and as a contractor, I was all about teaching businesses what the expectations are. Because the biggest thing is you got to know the rules to play the game. And sometimes the rules can be very cumbersome. And I always say it looks like a big maze and a puzzle, and you're in one. So it's good of us a guide to figure out which step number one is, which alleyway, what's best interest for your business. And I've worked from projects started at maybe 100,000 to millions. I've worked 2 years in the Middle East in Iraq and worked with our soldiers on a big communications and infrastructure project. So I've done everything you can think of as a contractor and as a government employee. And as my husband says, I've served beyond the combat boots. So I think one thing is, for businesses, especially now, this is the time to reset, think about a contingency plan, and be ready. This is definitely the time to get things situated, because if you wait very last minute, it's too late at this point. So that's kind of my story. And so I want to talk about 12 steps that I really think would be beneficial for our business right now. One is, administratively, have you made sure that you have a tax ID number, a Dun and Bradstreet number? And if you don't know how to get a Dun and Bradstreet number, put that in the chat back box and I will put a link in there for you. The other thing that you need to make sure is your state and local and federal registrations are done. And if you don't know what that means, that's another step that we can help you through that process. Know your codes. Some are like PR, but there's more than one code you fall under. You know, your industry codes, marketing. Some do personal service. So know those codes. And there's the best part I love about right now is there's websites that can help you, because every government agency, state, local, and federal, they all have their different languages. So you got to decide which ones are the best ones to go for you. So first of all, make sure your administrative back end is done really well. Let me tell you a story. We had a client that was offered a bid for $2.5 million in Maryland. We were all set to win, and he forgot to update his Maryland state registration. So he lost that contract for $2.5 million. So it's a simple thing like that that's really important to understand. Like right now, the state of Georgia has extended their Secretary of State registration until beginning of May 1st, I think. So go and update it, get it all up to date in that aspect. The second thing I'm really going to talk about is resources. Like, do you have a CPA in place? Do you have an attorney? Or do you have a legal service that you utilize? Do you have a bookkeeper? Those are really needed, because once you get that contract, you're going to have to rely on those resources. Insurance, personal liability insurance, business liability insurance. If you're a construction firm, bonding, those kind of things. And even as a nonprofit, you've got to have insurance. That's so important in this time. And liability insurance right now is so cost effective. It costs us maybe less than $50 a month just for the coverage of $1 million. That's worth it just for that situation. The other thing is, have you done a SWOT analysis? What's your strength? What's your weakness in the business, and then you as the owner? That's so important, because I will tell people my weakness is I'm only 4'11". It's not going to change. But I also know that I will get somebody taller than me to go get whatever if it's on a big shelf. Same with you. If your weakness is not money and handling that part, find that bookkeeper. Find that person that can help you stay straight in that aspect. Because your weakness is always going to be your weakness. Utilize your strength. That is so, so important. The opportunities. Think about those opportunities that I was talking about, the state, local, and federal contracts. State and county contracts are great. That's a great way to get your feet wet, to understand what you want to do, and to see if it's even better to go out to those federal contracts. And also on the grant, because I saw there was a question about nonprofits. But also, think about this. If I'm the county person or the federal person or the state person, and I want to give you a $150,000 contract, how are you going to spend it? You can't spend all of it and give yourself a salary on that. Maybe 20% goes to overhead, being your website, your office, your car, those kind of things. Break it down. And maybe you give yourself a little bit of a salary from that, but you cannot give yourself a $50,000 salary and you got a $150,000 contract. That makes no sense. And what's your specialty? Are you the subject matter expert, or are you the project manager? There's a difference in that aspect. And can you handle it by yourself? Because most small businesses, if they win a $150,000 contract or grant, it's overwhelming, because it requires a lot more than a one-person deal. You've got to think about who else can you bring. Because one thing they will ask you is, what's the contingency if you're not available? Who am I going to be able to talk to? Because that has happened more and more these days. They love sole proprietors, but I highly recommend that you don't say you're a sole proprietor. Say, I have a partner or I have a cohort that I work with, and they would be on part of the contract. You want to set the standard right away. Because one thing I have learned in my tenure of doing business entrepreneurship is, and I've had this happen, is an older lady had passed away, and she was woman certification, and she left the business to her daughter who's in college. Her daughter did not want anything to do with that business and did not know what the business really did. So you got to think about that legacy or the what ifs, because if you don't, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble. Then my fourth thing is revenue stream. What are the revenue streams? You can't think of just one. I recommend at least 3. You get into 7, it gets a little complicated, but think of 3 key areas of revenue stream. One may be, hey, I'm a personal, designer, and then I sell you a product, and then we have videos or training. One thing the government, state, local, and federal, is you're going to see even more so, they are lacking in training. Training is a big problem for them, and they spend a lot of money on training. But be prepared. They may ask you, do you have a book? Do you have a workbook? Those kind of things, because you need to add those values to that training. As you can see, the government right now is struggling with Zoom and how to do that, and who can help me make sure that they're accountable when they're working. Those are kind of tools that maybe you can help, because as entrepreneurs, we tend to be able to adjust accordingly. One story I like to always share is at Northrop Grumman, we had to hire a janitor. It took us 9 months to hire a janitor. Where an entrepreneur or even a business owner, we could hire somebody 2 days or 3 days from now with no problems. So make sure that you're showing your value. The other thing is, find out what their issue is. What you start off in opportunity, maybe, hey, how's it going? You know what, I'm still having problems with so-and-so, or I'm having problems with stuff. That contract could turn into another contract, because you're building a relationship at that point. You can't just wait and say, well, thank you very much for the $150,000 contract, bye. You want to build before that one ends, because that's how the contracts happen. It's not one that goes out on a billboard or goes on a website. I tell a lot of business owners, if it's on a website, it's already thought of. They've already figured out who's going to win that contract. So let's work on finding opportunities before they're having the situation. The other thing that you guys need to understand in revenue stream is we are in the US Census year. So all these county, state, and federal dollars are going to totally change. One example I love to give is over 10 years ago, Valdosta, Georgia, was now considered a city. They are now at 65,000 people population. They went from just a little town to a city and had $5 million to spend on small business opportunities, and they didn't have anybody. They needed new websites, they needed help with the universities, those kind of things. So put your ear to the ground with all these counties and states. The other thing is, counties, don't go to the counties that everybody else is going to, because they're sucked dry. I always say Atlanta, City of Atlanta, Fulton County, a lot of those contracts are already thought of. Think of counties that they don't have minorities. They don't have a lot of women who are entrepreneurs. So I always say, especially in the Southeast, think about those counties. Like there's a little county called Hall County in Georgia. There's other counties that don't have enough minorities that deal in entrepreneurship or marketing or those kind of things. So think of those counties in that aspect. So in that revenue stream, really think about that. Marketing, marketing, marketing. Let me just say that's a key element, and let me start it multiple times. Make sure your marketing is uniform. What you say in Facebook should say same in LinkedIn, should say the same thing in Instagram, all that. Be consistent, because if it's not consistent, they are not going to believe you. Think of it like the Yellow Pages expanded at this point. So marketing is a key thing. Website, make it simple. Don't get convoluted. Don't get into 10 pages. Make it simple to the point. These one pages where they scroll down, I love those. It's simple. Here's what we do. Here's our expectation. This is how you get a hold of us. Simple and easy. Don't make it complicated for yourself. If you want to create e-commerce and those kind of things, add that as you're going along. Don't try to put everything at one time. I always say in spaghetti sauce, yes, it's made with lots of tomatoes and stuff like that, but you still want it to taste good. And sometimes you adding jalapenos may not be the ideal thing if the person doesn't like jalapenos. So be cognizant of that when you're doing your marketing. Think about it. Simplify. Don't go crazy in this conversation. The other thing is teaming and subcontracting. Look at those people who have contracts. If they don't have, and they don't know who you are, that may be the added value that you bring. So maybe, hey, I'm a PR person, but I don't do photography and I don't do videography, but they don't do PR. That's a teaming opportunity. This is where you share, hey, this is where I could fit into your piece of puzzle. And that's really important because guess what? That's how contracts go. They start with one little thing and it builds on from that point on. One example I'd love to give is the Statue of Liberty. When we redid Statue of Liberty, it was also Ellis Island. It turned into a $35 billion contract. The first part was we're going to paint the Statue of Liberty. Oh, by the way, we have to do a new website because she's made painted different. We have to do Wi-Fi because Ellis Island had shown its age. Oh, by the way, we've got to put new badges so the badges look new. So the Department of Interior spent $35 billion. And by the way, that small business procurement person met a goal of 25% of that set aside for small business. So think about that, and I can't think of what the math is right now in my head, but 25% of $35 billion was given out to small businesses, from one-man shops to under 500 business employees. So that's really important to look at. My other thing is, when you're going to those agencies, think about their language, because as you have watched it, I'm a big fan of, Homeland and some of these others. Homeland Security talk a different language than Department of Interior. And Department of Interior is, parks and leisure and that kind of stuff. They're not thinking about security at the level that Homeland Security is. So really make sure you're having that conversation and understanding their buying power. The nice thing, again, websites will show you past forecasts of what they spent. That's so important. And I'm all about, go to the smaller agencies. Don't go to the big ones. The big ones are taken up. The Department of Defense is huge. And it has different languages of the Air Force, Marines, the Navy, all that. They speak their own language. They can be very convoluted. So if your goal is to get that contract, look at a contract that you not normally would think of. One agency I really love besides Department of Interior is Department of Energy. They speak it they do phenomenal work, and you'll be really surprised how much they spend on different things. Technology is one of the biggest things they spend on right now. The other thing is 8 is exit plan, contingency plan. What happens if life happens to you or to you and your business partner? What are you going to do? I know a lot of business owners that have a legacy plan, but what if your child doesn't want anything to do with your business? Are you wanting to sell it? Or are you planning to merge with another business? I've seen that happen with a lot of nonprofits in the last 5 years, have been bought out by other nonprofits. One of the reasons they're doing that is getting what they want, the Rolodex. That's what they want. So think about that. Do it now. Think about it now before the situation. Don't get caught. The other thing is certifications. Certifications are very valuable. Women-owned, third-party certification, minority-owned. My favorite is Department of Transportation. And Department of Transportation spends a lot of money and gives out a lot of contracts. And it crosses over to state, which is so important right now. Because in Georgia, you could go to Alabama and say, I have a Department of DOT DBE certification, which is a disadvantaged business enterprise, and they will recognize it from Georgia. So think about your certifications and make sure they are recognized. So right now, DOT, women-owned, and veteran-owned are the hot buttons right now. I know some of you may have heard of 8A and some of these other ones. You have to look at the value because some of them can be very costly and can take some time. And right now, the 8A is like Section 8, but for business owners, that one's taking about 3 to 5 years. And by the way, they're not prepared right now, SBA, right now with this money situation. So do you think they're ready to take on certifications right now? No. So last year when Roger and I went to DC, we went to talk to some of the agencies. 30% of the agencies do not have their positions filled. So think about that. So some of the agencies that you're going and reaching out to, it's so important that you look at what they've got staff-wise, because they're not going to necessarily be able to respond to you quickly. Okay. The other thing is, look at your B2B. How much of that is in your business? You know, business to business, is it 50%, 30%, 40%? B2C, B to customer, B to clients. What does that look like? And then B to G, business to government. So if you divide those three up, is it 30, 30, 40? Is it, look at that, because you do not want to rely all on government, and you do not all want to rely on business. As you can see, last year when we had government shutdown, guess what? You are not getting paid, but your business was. So make sure you have a balance with all three of those, because that also, again, will help you stay functioning. And it's a goal that you got to get to. So I know some people do coaching packets online, which is great, but think about that with the government. You're going to have to do a face-to-face some point. They are face-to-face kind of people. So understand that. They may be okay later on when you want to do it virtually, but the first initial engagement is probably going to be face-to-face. The other thing is tasking. You cannot do it all. Just understand that. So if you're doing a bid, look at who's going to do what. And they want to see that you have an attorney. They want to see you have a CPA. They want to see that you have other subject matter experts. They want to see that you're diversifying yourself as a business practicing person versus a sole proprietor, and you're wearing every hat. Again, they're going to wonder what's going on. The other thing that I love to, on that tasking, is money. Please, please, please understand the government does not like PayPal. You got to use a secure payment system. If it's Stripe, even Square is having a little issue, being hacked. So think of these payment processing systems out there that are more secure. The other thing is, look at your banking. Does your banking have a merchant services aspect of it that you can link up to? And especially now, if your bank is not rooting for you and pushing for you, you need to find a better banker. Because right now, these bigger banks are struggling, because guess what? They're not helping the small business, especially micro small businesses. So those micro small businesses are under 30, usually under 50 employees. Yes, the government, one thing I did see that Brian asked about government credit cards. So government credit cards, my favorite way to get paid. Guess why? Because it goes up to $250,000 contract. So how many would you guys would like to do 4 $250,000 contracts with a credit card swipe? That would be lovely, right? So those are kind of things that you need to understand, is to have those payment processes in place. I have other ones I highly suggest, and I will definitely give those out to Tara or whoever wants to shoot me an email. But there is some great ones out there that are very, very good. And understand you don't have to pay a fortune for merchant services. That's probably the most important part for any business owner. And the 12th thing is, get started. Don't wait until tomorrow or next week or after the coronavirus is over, because guess what, guys? This is not going to end anytime soon. We may be here for three more weeks, or maybe here for 3 more months. But get yourself scheduled to say, hey, I'm going to spend an hour on getting myself ready for government contracts, because guess what? You could get that call. FEMA's one right now. They're looking for specific things, as you can see. Besides masks, they're looking for water right now. They're looking for clothes, because in New Orleans right now, because they're totally shut down, a lot of their homeless, because of the situation that they haven't gotten some backup from the situation from Andrew, they still have a lot of homeless people. They've still got to try to get clothes to them. So you'll be really surprised what kind of contracts out there. So I will tell you one that people always ask me, what's the most unusual contract? So the most unusual contract was a veteran who had falcon birds that it was his hobby. He was at a VFW talking to some man And he's like, oh yeah, I fly these birds. My wife hates them. He goes, really? Have you thought about doing government contracts? No, I don't. I need someone to come to my flight line and get rid of all the predators so we can, get the birds. And that was, by the way, a $2.5 million contract for that man and his birds, so that they could get rid of predatory birds, so that when they were practicing flights, that they're able to do that. So there are contracts for unbelievable things. I mean, Under Armour, I don't know, you guys all know this, but when Under Armour started, their business practices were not to get into government contracting. The reason he got into government contracting is a couple Marines had bought his shirts that are that unique material and wore them underneath their uniform, and the colonel loved them. And the next thing they know, they got a phone call from the government going, can you make 100,000 of them? So it happens. It's not just technology. It's not just clothes. One thing I always recommend, if you have a teaching background or training background, I highly recommend getting yourself out there, because it is so needed. I mean, Roger and I are on a contract. You're going to I can't even believe I'm saying this, but we are teaching life skills to youth, foster youth. Simple things like, hey, how do I open a business account? Hey, how do I apply for college? Because guess what? A lot of these kids don't know what's going on out there. So one thing I will tell you this is, there's grants that go to nonprofits or churches, whatever, but they turn into contracts, because guess what? A lot of times they don't have the personnel to do the work. That's where you add as a small business, because guess what? Nonprofits need to be accountable. And I tell people, grants is about every penny spent, contracts about every dollar spent. So those are the difference. Nonprofits really need to understand right now, there is some grant money, state, local, and federal. The question is, do you have, same thing with all these other for-profit business, do you have past performance? Do you have the marketing? Do you got all that in place? Because what's in your heart, they're not going to see. It's got to be that logistically processed business practice. That's what they want to see. So that is it. I'm all ready for questions, concerns, whatever you got to share.
Wow, that was a lot. But what it did do is it helped us to map out everything that we need in bite-sized chunks, so we can work on different things. So it's doable. And you don't have to do everything at one time, but you mapped out a lot of things we've already talked about. We talked about
Right.
the financials, getting our financials in order. Insurance is very important. We talked about the business plan, and it's really essentially the business plan, because that gives all the information that's there, or you compile the information and that can be put into a business plan. But especially the marketing side of it, I never thought about it, but you're absolutely right. The government, they need websites, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have new projects coming out. They need websites. They need people to manage it. They need social media management. They need training. And like you said, all types of training
Yeah.
within that. So there's so many opportunities there if we put ourselves in a position to qualify and to apply for those. So thank you for that information. If we want to know more about what we need to do to get government contracts or to work with you to help us through this process, how can we get in contact with you?
So my number is 678-701-8495. I'm also on LinkedIn. It's Stacy K as in Kim Vaughn. And you can IM me, and I will schedule a 30-minute free consultation to have this conversation about what's the next step. Because I think a lot of business owners don't know, and they're throwing up their hands on different things. Let's really finite and figure out what's the next steps for you. Even nonprofits, what's the process? Because guess what? If I give you a $150,000 grant, I want to know how you're going to spend that money. So it's really important in that aspect. And my email address is Stacy, STACY, at DUnity Group. And a D is in Delta, Unity, UNITY, Group, GROUP.com, all one word. And I appreciate all of you guys because I know that it can be overwhelming in this conversation. And some people want to know, like certifications, I will tell you, they want you to be in business about 2 years. That's the requirement. They may change that requirement in the next couple months. It's hard to say right now. But again, one thing we do is we help you go through that certification and make sure you understand what the process is. Because the other thing is, in your certifications, guys, that I didn't really talk about, is they come and interview you. Like at Department of Transportation, they will give you 87 questions, and they will decide if they're going to give you that piece of paper or not. And a lot of times you're like, I've already answered that question. It doesn't matter. They want to know if you can follow directions. That's really what it is. And we've gotten somebody, some of you guys know Natasha Davis. We just finished hers, and she got hers in less than 60 days. Because that's, you know, they're all working from home, so they're able to look through the packet and everything. So understand this, that don't make government contract your only thing. It's an additive. It's a huge additive that you've got to understand what it takes. And again, know the rules, because guess what? The rules can make you or break you, is what I always say.
Well, thank you so much for that information. That's absolutely great. And, you know, I look forward to working with you on that finally, with all the years. And, you know, it just gives us another reason. Look, the answer to who doesn't have to be you. So you don't have to do it by yourself. You definitely can get help from someone. And that's the whole thing. One of the things I talk about being quarantined, one of the things in the quarantine, A stands for ask for help. And talk with a professional or an expert, someone that's done this. So I rather invest in myself and work with someone who's done this than try to figure it out and waste a lot of time and potentially money. So again, thank you so much for sharing that information.
Of course, I enjoyed it. I hope you guys, wish you all the best in this time period. You know, go make it happen, guys, because guess what? There's so much opportunity. It's ridiculous.
Beautiful. And what I'd like to do now is open it up to any questions that you have. One question that I did have for you was you mentioned the codes, the industry codes. Can you explain what those industry codes mean, and where could we find the code so we can figure out what our code is?
So if you Google NAIC, and there's national, I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but basically it's your industry codes for what you do. And understand you also need product service codes. Those are the two big ones. And then I know that some of you in your state registration, you had to put SIC codes, SIC codes. So those codes are saying, hey, I do marketing, I do training, or I do, you know, teaching. Those codes, and it's nice because you go in that website, you type in what your expertise is, and it'll give you a list. By the way, guys, don't just put one code, but don't go crazy and put me 150. Be realistic in your expectation. Like some of the things, believe it or not, I always recommend temporary help. We're all temporary help as a entrepreneur, right? So always put that. Administratively, we all probably have some administrative support background in some aspects. But if your key element is marketing, mark that as your primary, and the other ones are secondary. Because depending on the agency, they'll look at those depending on, hey, if you're going to be, I already have somebody for marketing, but I may put you under PR, or I may put you under professional services. So understanding what your codes are is really, really important. But like I said, don't get so bogged down into them. Just pick 4. I recommend about 5 each, you know, 4 or 5 each, and get those and know them, because guess what? Just putting the number on doesn't tell me anything anymore. Tell me what the number and what it says, that means a whole bunch. Because you have to understand, the government agencies get hundreds and thousands of marketing postcards, business cards, and they only put the codes in, but I don't, you know, a lot of times you don't remember what they are. So you got to remind them, hey, you know, 546111 is professional services. Oh, okay. So tell me, what exactly is that professional service? Be ready to answer that question, because professional service is very broad. I get it. But professional services for us is we do training, we do speaking, and then we also do group training. So that's our professional service. Oh, okay. Because some of our opportunities that we've been speaking at, like Department of Energy, I think they used another code because somebody else they had already given a contract under another code. That's our code. So that's the other reason why too. So understand your codes. Don't go crazy about them, but get the top 4, top 5. You're going to need it in your marketing. That's the other strategy you got to really understand, being consistent in that aspect.
Awesome. Any more questions? Brian, welcome to the family. I noticed that you unmuted yourself. Did you have a question?
Did I unmute myself?
You did, and then I muted you, and then I unmuted you again.
Well, that's what I said. I saw the message saying you did it. I thought, oh, okay. Now she'll let me talk. Hey, Stacy, good to see you.
Hey, Brian, good to see you too, sir.
Yeah, I've gotten older since we saw each other last. Obviously, you haven't.
Oh, thanks.
You were talking about your favorite agencies. You said the Department of Transportation, Department of Interior. What were your other favorite industries? I mean, agencies.
Agencies. No,
You're breaking up. You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Department of Justice.
She's saying Department of Justice.
You have to think about our prisons, guys. Our prisons spend more money. Oh, I don't know why.
Okay, you got her now.
Department of Justice. Think about our prisons. Our prisons require a lot of content. Yeah. So Department of Justice, they're the biggest buyer of chicken. They're the biggest support. One contract that Roger and I saw for 3 years was they needed a priest.
A priest. Okay. I guess so.
Right. Because yeah.
But the
Another
only
one that
agency
we've
we heard
seen
you
a
say was
lot.
DOJ. You broke up on all the others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you broke up on the other
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry. So Department of Justice, because they have so many. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Did anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah. Hey, Stacy.
Hey.
Me, Sabrina. So, Lord, as I'm listening to you, Tara is actually doing my website, and I told her why, so the government can understand just simply.
Right.
And she told me we're not going to funk it up and have it doing all crazy things. But you said everything I'm doing right now. So I know I can't do everything. People know me as a speaker. I'm in marketing. I'm in media.
Right.
So I'm going to put my marketing as primary and all the other things. But what I've done is I've gathered a list of plumbers. I've got cleaning people. I've got people who do home construction, a whole sorts of people I've just got around me, which is my small network. And I'm going to add to that because I can't do those things. I've got people who do roads and things like that. Right. So I hear what you were saying with the subcontractors or whatever you want to call them, and they will fulfill if something I know I physically cannot. But you just kind of put that in perspective for me. So thank you for that. And I'm hopefully I hadn't got my first yet, but I've checked all the boxes as you're talking, and it's and I appreciate you for making that so simple. And so I got your number. I've had your number, I don't know, about 10, 15 years now. So I may give you a call and I'll let you know when I get
Yeah, you know what I mean.
We're all coming out of the woodwork, Stacy. Like, yeah, okay, we're ready now. It took us 20 years, but we're ready now.
Yeah. And I'll start in Douglasville, see what they have. I live in Douglasville, and then I'll look at the smaller counties and then the cities that I can probably on.
Douglasville's got a lot of stuff going on. So.
Okay. And I know the mayor
Somebody
there.
had
So.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stacy. What were you saying?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Great. So somebody had said something about nonprofit. I saw something about students or something like that in the chat box.
Yeah, that was Michi.
That was me. I have a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We work with students grade 8 through 12. First generation college students, low to middle income, 8th to 12th grade. So we do programming like college readiness, test prep, financial literacy, leadership development, mentorship, all of those different kinds of programs. So we just got the 501c3, so we're trying to get some grants, state, local, and federal, and it's just trying to navigate that process and get some funding for some of these programs that we're offering.
So what was your question, Michi? Did you have a question for her?
So my question was how to, get started with the grants, how to land that first one. I've been applying.
Right. So again, you need to think about, and you got to think it in your head. If I get $150,000 grant, how am I going to spend the money? Be prepared for that conversation. The other thing that is look at other big businesses. There's a lot of foundation money out there right now. Cisco, like some of those kids that you're dealing with, how many don't have technology in their life? They're giving money away for that, or partner with somebody who doesn't deal with that age group. They deal with the smaller age group, the under, the preschool and kindergarten. They may have great resources and they often get called, hey, we don't deal with teenagers. So you are a partner for them at that point, okay? So be prepared for that conversation. The other thing is data. Every nonprofit needs to look at that. How many are minority? How many are girls? How many girls that are into technology? That STEM, STEAM, all that plays a key part. How many of them are foster kids? Because there's nonprofits dealing with foster kids in that age group that you're dealing with. How many of those kids are living in Section 8 homes? Those data is so important because guess what? When you're looking for that grant, that's when we can say, oh, you want to go to that nonprofit because they got the numbers for that. Because that's really going to be your value. Because that's what they want. Nonprofits bring in the constituents that really need that help, and you have the data. That's really, really important. That's going to be your value as a nonprofit. Okay? So if you've been helping them, especially if you've been working with churches, in that church, one church that I dealt with in Augusta, they have 2 churches. They get grant money, but they realize they need to do a preschool, but they can't get it done fast enough because guess what? They don't have the land. They have the kids, but they don't have the land. Then we started looking at the data. Well, half of those kids were military kids, which is a whole different cost of money that they get. So you have to look at everything in that for your nonprofit. Going back to that business process in your head, what's the data that's going to be of value to the person or the agency that's going to give you that money in that aspect?
Awesome.
So I saw the thing that Sabrina asked me about grants for minority businesses. For-profit businesses, there are no grants in that aspect. Understand that grants they want to see what the expectations are, and it's about, the grant goes for, a lot of times it's that research component. So a lot of associations and business organizations will be a 501c6 or whatever. They're utilizing that number so they can get federal dollars. So it works a little differently, but women-owned certifications and women-owned business grant money is not really available in that perspective.
Thank you for clearing that up, that for-profit, there are no grants for for-profit businesses. Again, there are no grants for for-profit businesses. I'm going to say it one more time. There are no grants for for-profit businesses. I'm kind of sick of people saying, oh no, I have a business, I'm going to get a grant, but you're for-profit. So there is no grant for for-profit businesses. And those that tell you there are grants for for-profit businesses, you either misunderstood them or they're lying. So
right.
You must have a nonprofit, or, it may not be a 501c3, it may be a 501c6 or another designation that allows you to get the grants that's tied to your for-profit, but not necessarily, they won't pay the for-profit grant money. Okay.
So, yeah, and I like to do a clarification. You guys need to understand, Bill Gates started Microsoft. 10 years later, he did Gates Foundation. There's a difference. And by the way, he took a percentage of his salary to pay for Gates Foundation. So there's a difference again. So understand that. That's really important. I think I saw a question from Darla about nonprofits overseas.
Yeah, Darla's going to ask the question. Go ahead, Darla.
Hi. So you know how Shay has her school in Kenya? Are there grants available for nonprofits like that?
Yes. So a lot of times the Kenyan government, but the other thing is one agency that is unique, and this is very unique, is USAID. USAID gets their money 3 different ways. They get federal dollars, they get nonprofit dollars, and they get corporate dollars. So USAID would be a good one for the nonprofit in Kenya. But again, it's relationship building, marketing, all that components have to be in place. You can't just say, well, yeah.
She has all that. She's been doing it now since 2003.
Okay. So the other thing is understand that she may have to look at what's in the country, and then we have to realize the dynamics, because it's very difficult when it's overseas versus stateside. I mean, I can't, those are two, it's like working overseas was way different for me than working here stateside. Just a different feel, different opportunity, you know, relationships, how to have that conversation. One thing is she could look at USAID and start looking at what they have for grant aspects. CDC, NIH, because if she's dealing with that nonprofit with children, those are things that you need to look at. So it just kind of depends on what the focus is.
What is that last one, Stacy?
CDC, NIH, National Institute of Health. Okay. So that deals with World Health Organizations in that aspect, as you guys all know about now. A lot of people didn't know who they who existed. I've known about them for a long time. And the reason I did, because when I was in Iraq, we dealt with a lot of youth, kids. A lot of them were homeless, you know, those kind of situations. So we had to figure out some way to get them situated with families or cousins or get them adopted or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. I think, believe, well, somebody else had a question. Oh, Kevin, you had a very good question. You want to ask that question?
Yes. I understand we were strapped for time and we went over the 12 steps very quickly. Is there a hard copy of those 12 steps?
Yes.
Okay. So great. And so how can we get how can we get that information, or you can always forward it and I can make it available to everyone in the group on all your
I can
in the group.
Yes, I'll put it out there so you guys know what the 12 steps are. Just realize that the steps are just words and you're gonna have to fill in the blanks or have a conversation with me.
Yeah, absolutely. It just gives us something to check off to say, okay, I already have this.
Right, exactly.
Not that, or, ooh, I need to find out about this one.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Awesome. Great. Before we wrap up, was there anyone else who had any questions? Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much. Before we go, I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to share their business and their side hustle, superhero, or whatever business that they have if you are on camera. So we will start with our newbies. Let's start with the testosterone in the group, Mr. Kevin. Tell us about yourself.
Wow. I do lots of things. I have been a government contractor, working for another agency. My main field is indoor air quality, doing all of the asbestos, lead, mold, all that type of testing. I've probably been doing that for about 30 years.
Wow. So you do that for your own, you have your own company?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
awesome.
I do it for myself. I do it for others. I do it for my main hustle. So
Right.
yeah.
Beautiful. And so what is how do we contact you as for your business to support you, follow you, to learn more about you?
Yeah, Stacy's gonna hate me for this, but I really don't have a website for that. And it's mainly because most of the time people will come directly to me. I need your help. So I haven't had to go out and sell myself.
Got you. And you'll understand why I say this, but websites is not just to sell yourself. Sometimes people like to have some place to go to just
Right.
learn more about you, or to reach out to you and contact you as
Absolutely.
well, especially when you get
Absolutely.
referrals. So
And
that's a great
give a review and all that good stuff.
Exactly. Beautiful. Miss Sabrina, tell the world how wonderful you are.
Thank you, honey. So I'm just going to keep this simple because y'all know, the ones who know me know I can go. So of course, I'm an international speaker. I do a lot of marketing, and this is why I'm trying to bring this down. So it's really good. She helped me out on that to really bring it down. Training, I'm a trainer, and venturing out, I have some vacation homes, and I'm also an actor. So I show people how to get into the acting industry. And I will just say that I'm an author. So those are the tight areas that I'm very, very good at. And I think even hearing Stacy speak, as I said, I'm one person. So I'm going to gather a tribe, if you will, so we can all benefit. I'm about having people also benefit, not knowing that they can. So my goal is to get me situated and bring those people in. And you all know I love to share and give, but they're going to work for it this time. We'll work for it together.
Absolutely. You're going to build that team.
Yes. And that's you, my dear, you're making my website, and that's the meat on the bones, I think. I can't wait for that. So when they go take a peek, we give them exactly what they want. All right?
Yeah.
You can reach me. I'm also on Facebook here. It's Sabrina, Sebrena, Sumrah, Sumrah Kelly. I'm from the Caribbean, so long name. And I can be reached at 678-571-2621. I'll put it in there as well. And look forward to connecting with some of you. And beautiful. Congratulations, everyone. Let's get it. Don't leave anything on the table, is what I say.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Miss Darla.
Hey there, you guys.
Hey there.
Stacy's actually my cousin, and we've been chatting over the past several years. I've been a journalist for the past 30 years, so I'm taking all of that knowledge that I've learned and all my resources and people, and just trying to figure out what I want to narrow it down to. If it's the marketing side, the PR side, the training side, because if you look at my business card right now, it has everything there and it's a little overwhelming. So I'm trying to narrow it down to see, okay, what steps should I take first? And then on top of that, I'm entering a teaching credential program out here in California to get my master's in teaching.
Beautiful. Awesome. How can we connect with you and follow you and support you?
I think I'm in the early stages again. But I would love like support and prayer. And
do you can we connect with you on social media?
Yes, you can. I'll send it in the chat area here. I am on Facebook.
And Darla's being too humble, by the way.
No, I'm not. Why do you say that, Stacy?
Yeah, you are. So Darla, because you've been on national TV. You were at Sacramento, so I think you did not show your full value, my dear. So.
Not national, but just local and regional TV.
Okay, and that's more than
right. But
most people.
There's a lot of people who don't get to have
right.
that
right. Yeah, and I
exactly.
Was it Sabrina you talked about?
And Darla is a good networker. She definitely knows how to connect people. So
I would say, Sabrina, we could actually collaborate because I know people here, there, everywhere. So
that's awesome. And so what you might find value is joining me for one of my coffees. I do coffees. Now it's going to be early for you because you're in California. I'll just put that out there right now. I do my coffees at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's a virtual coffee. If you want tea, you can have tea. If you want vodka, go for it. It's happy hour somewhere, but I need my coffee in the morning, right? Exactly. And Michi can probably share with you. She's done a session with me on there, and it's either one person who's scheduled or it could be 10 people that schedule, but it's a great time. And what we do focus on sometimes is brand clarity and helping people to focus on what they're really good at. And then it turns into a mini coaching session. So I do business coaching, but this is my time to really pour into the dualpreneurs so I can help you and guide you the best way that I can while you're there. So just go into the group and you can schedule a coffee with me. It's okay. 10 o'clock. That's as early as I'm going to get up. All right. Michi, ride or die chick.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Well, I am Michi Renee. I am a intuitive life and business coach. I help aspiring entrepreneurs, someone who has an idea, maybe, you have an idea for a business, but I help people monetize on their skills, gifts, and talents. I run, the name of my business is called the Unicorn Tribe. That's UNIKORNTRYBE. And I'm all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find me with the little pink unicorn. I am unique, and so are the people that I work with. In addition to that, I do have my 501c3. It's called Am I Ready? And you can find that at Am I Ready Inc. On the internet, and we work with students grade 8 through 12.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. No, we have Latoya that's on here. She's not able to get on camera. That's fine. Latoya, you can say hi. I'll let you say hi because you are doing one of the things we all want to do right about now. Get our hair done. So, but she's doing it herself, y'all. So don't get all hyper.
Yes. Right. Hi, everyone. So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and I've worked in talent acquisition as well as real estate for the last 20 years, dually. So my day job was always HR, talent acquisition, and then my side hustle was a licensed realtor. So after being laid off last week, I was like, all right, let's get these LLCs going. It's a better time to do so. So I took the property preservation class, Danielle Pierce's property preservation class. So just got my first contract for that. So this particular webinar was like right on time because I was like, how can I expand this both from a talent acquisition side as well as property preservation? So thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome.
I have put in the website or that you can go to schedule a coffee with me if you'd like to go there as well. And my name is Tara Jackson, aka Madam Money. You may know me as a personal finance expert and contributor on the likes of CNN, Fox Network, and the personality. I've been on Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Those are kind of the fun things that I do. I love talking about personal finance. I'm the author of 2 books back there. You can see Financial Fornication and the 4 Financial Languages. But what you didn't know is that I have a company called SRJ Business Solutions, and we focus on building websites for small business owners. We believe that every small business owner, regardless of size, should look like a Fortune 500 company online because looks do matter. And so we would love the opportunity to have a conversation with you about your new website, and we do it and we don't break the bank. So we believe we start off with a smaller, all the way from small to large businesses, but it's very important that we have a professional look right now because now there's so many options. And so we want to set you apart from your competition. If you'd like to learn more about starting your website, you can go to SRJ Websites. Again, that's srjwebsites.com, and just scroll down and schedule time for us to talk. Again, Stacy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing. We look forward to getting those 12 steps in the group, and, you know, so that we can begin the process, and connecting with you to help us through this process so we can get the bank, we can get them government contracts.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I love you. There is nothing you can do about it. And don't forget, everybody, come on, wash them hands. Bye-bye.